This video is made possible by Wix. If you're ready to create a website, head over to wix.com/go/infographics2019 to try out one of their premium plans right now. What is happiness? People have been asking the question since the times of the great Greek philosophers. For instance, Aristotle believed happiness was the very purpose of human life. Epicurus, whose philosophy is often misunderstood, believed pleasure was the goal of life, but we must live frugally to attain it. Just because we send chemicals to our brain's pleasure center doesn't mean we'll achieve long-term happiness. You all know that buying something awards temporary happiness, but a come down is likely not far away. We need to be satisfied, we need challenges, we need focus, and we need to feel we have some love around us and some amount of safety. With this in mind, welcome to this episode of the Infographics Show. Are kids happier than adults? Some people grow up a lot faster than others, but for argument's sake, let's say that an adult is 18 years old. You might also say, well, so you're comparing someone who's 17 and 9 months to someone who's 18 and 3 months. Yes, our question today is rather tricky, but we'll do our best. We should add that comparing kids or adults from extremely different backgrounds is also a challenge. Happiness in general is often affected by material wealth, a roof over our head, water to drink, food to eat, and the fact that we can live our life without the constant threat of somebody wanting to take it from us. That's our disclaimer. This is a very general kind of question today. So, how do we measure happiness? Well, first of all, we can just ask people how happy they feel. If they reply that life feels like a cross to bear and every day is filled with feelings of regret, shame, bitterness, and never wanting to get out of bed, you could say that's a marker of unhappiness. Specifically, if that is accompanied by thoughts of wanting to take their own life and this goes on for weeks, months, or years. Scientists also say that they look for biological markers in the brain, such as levels of hormones and neurotransmitters. They might also just look at behavior, how much you laugh and smile, the things you say, your body language. It might tell you a lot about a person. Then you have sneaky scientists who ask others what they think. Your friends and family might comment on how you act if they think you're feeling happy. It's not an easy game measuring happiness. There are happiness paradoxes too, such as people that do things that they think will make them happy, but those things actually don't. Still, the people might lie to themselves, but you get the gist. There are some ways, albeit not always accurate, of measuring happiness. Okay, so many of us growing up during the adolescent stage of childhood have had parents that have told us that we don't know how lucky we have it. We have more than they did, life is easier, etc. Some parents might even go as far to warn children, just you wait, life's going to get a lot harder. What some of these parents have perhaps forgotten is that adolescence isn't always a walk in the park. Most experts, however, agree that if young kids grow up in a household where they don't suffer regular traumas, they are generally quite happy. They're still looked after, don't yet feel alienated from others, and are not yet competing with others in ways that can lead to feelings of fear, hostility, anger, etc. We might look at a recent study that interviewed 53,000 children across 15 countries about their level of happiness. In general, kids aged 10 to 12 showed a high level of satisfaction. The strange thing perhaps was kids in Norway who had all the material things they wanted – phone, computer, internet, clothes, own room, TV, etc. – seemed just as content as kids from poorer countries who didn't have hardly any of those material things. What the study showed was that young kids could make their own fun and it didn't matter really what they had. But then they got a little older and material deprivation became something that affected happiness. We've likely all experienced this change, the time when we want what others have when in some ways we compete with friends, or we might even get bullied for what we don't have. As we said, most experts agree that young kids are pretty happy in general and likely happier than people in their early 20s fighting for survival, or older people suffering from health problems, or midlife crisis people trying to hold on to their vitality and youth. It's the teen years when the problems start, and this is where we can say many adults might be happier. According to USA statistics, very few 10 to 14-year-olds take their own lives. But after 14, things change dramatically. In fact, the CDC says the rate of kids aged 10 to 17 taking their own lives between 2006 and 2016 went up 60% in the US. The number of kids who had thoughts about doing that doubled too, according to one study. The rate is still not as high as young adults and middle-aged adults, but it's not too far off. CBS News wrote in 2018, in a troubling sign that more young Americans are struggling with depression and anxiety, new research shows a significant rise in the number of school-aged children and teens thinking of taking their own lives or actually attempting suicide. We could say for sure that adolescence is a more trying time for children than the kiddie years. Is it more so nowadays? That's not easy to answer, but you can find scores of articles and studies that tell us use of substances, legal and illegal, have troubled the youth, while social media use may have also depressed many of the young generation. Ask any adult who grew up without social media if they think they'd have wanted it during their adolescence. Many will answer with a resounding no way. As we noted earlier, material deprivation can play a big part in a child's happiness levels, and to some extent, social media is a place where children show off, where they show what they have, and this can create envy and resentment for those in the competition. And the fact is, someone will always have more than you. Is it possible that this infinite online playground is more of a battleground than the physical playgrounds of the past? Johns Hopkins Health Review tells us that this is indeed the case, saying that over 10 years, cases of clinical depression and anxiety among adolescents aged 12 to 17 have gone up a lot. In that article, a doctor said the hyperconnectivity of today's teenagers, nearly 80% of them have cell phones, means that school day dramas play out in real time. Every embarrassing moment, every snippet of gossip has the potential to be recorded, posted, and commented upon. We may also ask if kids are more sleep deprived when using devices and if they get out as much into nature and enjoy the real world as well as exercise. Are we looking at a new addiction epidemic? Misuse of technology used not so much for learning but becoming part of this new digital battleground/playground. Another study showed that of 116,000 people who had been sent to a children's hospital after contemplating or trying to take their own lives, 2/3 of those were girls. Of both boys and girls, the most common age category was 15 to 17, with 12 to 14 following. We're also told self-inflicted injury rates for young females rose almost 20% from 2005 to 2015. Psychology Today cited a survey that's been conducted every year since the 1970s that involved 1.4 million U.S. teens. It wrote, around 2012 to 2013, there was a sudden uptick in teens saying that they were experiencing symptoms of depression, feeling hopeless, not enjoying life, believing they can't do anything right. You can look all around the web and you'll find similar stories, most saying that this spike in depression and self-harm was somehow related to technology advances. You can find ex-Facebook execs now demonizing social media and saying they wouldn't let their kids anywhere near it. Sure, you can find many other articles that will tell you having all this information in your device that you can consume is an amazing thing, and it can be, but kids should know how to use these advancements for the betterment, not detriment of their lives. Other studies showed how less use of social media improved children's level of happiness, while other studies showed that more social media use led to more unhappiness. However, unhappiness did not lead to more social media use. What everyone seems to agree on is that kids are now more depressed and anxious than they were not too long ago. We searched and cannot find any refutations of this. We're telling you all of this because if we're going to answer the question in today's show, we should take into account all of these articles telling us kids over the last few years have suddenly gone a lot more down and many have thought about hurting themselves. These are major news outlets citing various studies. So if you're already 28, perhaps you might wonder if it's different for teens today. We might also ask if kids are just having as much fun as they should. Not only might they be competing on the devices that they can't put down, but they're often overburdened with schoolwork. They're going through puberty, which is not easy for some kids. They're becoming adults, and with this comes responsibility. At that same time, they might grow distant from their parents. This is a time when a kid might feel lonely, not able to explain his or her feelings. It's the era of locking the bedroom door and shouting, "No one understands me," arguing with parents, siblings, while having to fight their way through pecking orders that are developing. It will pass, we all know it will pass, but it's hard for the adolescent to see that, and often good advice is ignored. Good parenting means knowing how to connect with your child, but sometimes this is hard for parents, and sometimes parents don't try hard enough. It can also be tough for a young person to talk about their fears, their problems at school, their arguments with sometimes ruthless friends, or their awakened desires. Adolescence issues may seem small for parents, but for the kids they're huge and sometimes seem unnavigable. Kids might also see their parents' own problems and worry about dad's fondness of Scottish malt whiskey, or the fact mom lost her job and that medicine cabinet seems more stocked. It can be stressful for kids when they're old enough to see problems in the family that they couldn't see in the past. Kids may be happier than adults, but they've never faced the nightmare of having to build their own website. But lucky for us, Wix makes designing a great-looking website child's play. Their robust design tools let you build from the ground up, or if you like, you can just select from one of their hundreds of fully customizable templates. Then just change things around how you want with their easy drag-and-drop interface. Their subscription services also give you access to 24/7 live support, and their mobile hosting means that your site is always available and looking great no matter the device. Get started building a fantastic website right now and try out Wix today by visiting the link in the description or going to wix.com/go/infographics2019. But what do you all think about this? Is adolescence really that hard? Was it for you? Maybe you can give some great advice yourself. Tell us in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other show, How Does Truth Serum Work? Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.